Artists have become ingrained into society. Their work is vital in the world's reception of commercialism, social issues, and entertainment. Art, especially visual art, has played a pivotal role in shaping the world's course of history and culture, with movements such as the following paving the way towards the historically rich and aesthetically driven society known today. The Renaissance acted as a catalyst for art culture and enlightenment. This movement, with its narrative-driven and often biblical paintings, aided the creation of a curiosity-driven climate. With progress made by artists like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael, artists were placed in a new light and dropped in ranks next to scholars and philosophers of the era. Artists were no longer regarded as mere artisans. Aside from setting the framework for later artists and their ability to be taken seriously, Renaissance artists played just as an important role in the quest for knowledge. Impressionism rejected the narrative-driven artwork created in the Renaissance. Instead, the movement opted to use unblended and light brushstrokes meant to represent light, as well as ambiguous subject matters that depicted detached visuals of modern life at the time. More than anything, Impressionism offered a valuable insight into life at this point in time, with its intentional obsession with new technology and forms of entertainment prominent in this era, like concerts and cafes. This movement was characterized by the artworks of Claude Monet, Edouard Manet, and Pierre-Auguste Renoir, who objectively depicted nature and society with an impersonal lens. In response to Impressionism, Expressionism confronted society with a subjective and emotionally charged movement. With an emphasis on vivid color and abrasive brushstrokes, the purpose of the movement was to impose the artist's emotions and inner turmoils onto its audience. Exemplified by artists like Edvard Munch, the movement was more personal than any movement before it. The Dada movement, despite lasting less than a decade, was one of the most influential and under-recognized art movements. Dada has no true definitive visual elements. Instead, it is defined by its satirical commentary on art culture. Dada sought to make viewers question what art was. Pieces by Dada artists like Marcel Duchamp and Hannah Husch were meant to stir controversy and challenge cultural norms. Dada urged society to question everything: societal standards, government, and art itself. Surrealism, which was greatly impacted by Dadaism, was a movement primarily influenced by dreamlike imagery and psychoanalytic themes introduced by psychologists like Sigmund Freud. Surrealism focused on irrational imagery influenced by one's subconscious. With its absurd and dreamy depictions, Surrealism, and the artists who represented it like Salvador Dali and René Magritte, pushed for a stronger emphasis on imagination within our culture. American Realism, although it shared technical elements with Surrealism, put forth an emphasis on realistic depictions and atmosphere. The movement often sought to capitalize on the melancholic attitudes of pre-war society and depicted the tasks of ordinary people and their mundane realities. More importantly, though, the American Realist movement helped develop American culture. At the time of the movement, from a historical standpoint, America was still a relatively new nation. The genre of art laser-focused on America's urban life and the industrial textures of cityscapes, with artists like Edward Hopper pioneering the movement. The movement is more than just regurgitated images from pop culture and mass media. Rather, one might notion that pop art is a satirical critique of commercialism and mass production that became evident in the post-World War II culture. Due to the movement, art became its own form of pop culture. Artists like Andy Warhol became household names, and the movement's artworks were plastered all over America. In the end, pop art brought art to the mass market a revival of Dadaistic irony to the art world, and involuntarily aided the rise of pop culture. All of the aforementioned movements have shaped the art of today, contemporary art. This movement, unlike the others, is tied together only by the time period in which it was created rather than the common styles or themes. Contemporary art represents today's society as it is diverse, technologically influenced, and tackles social issues affecting us today. The impact of this movement has yet to be completely written, but it is safe to say that it will be remarkable.